In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And within that endless conflict, there exists a transformation so profound, so utterly devastating, that it represents the complete inversion of everything the Imperium of man holds sacred. To become a Chaos Space Marine is to undergo a metamorphosis that affects not just the body, but the mind, the soul, and the very essence of what it means to be one of humanity's greatest defenders. This is the story of how angels of death become something far worse, how the Emperor's finest warriors fall into an abyss from which there is no return. The transformation into a Chaos Space Marine is not a single moment of corruption, but rather a gradual descent into darkness that can span years, decades, or even centuries. It is a journey that begins with the smallest seed of doubt and culminates in complete damnation. Some embrace it willingly, seeking power beyond imagining. Others resist every step of the way, only to find their efforts futile against forces that exist beyond mortal comprehension. But regardless of how they arrive at their destination, all who walk this path discover that what awaits them is both terrible and magnificent in equal measure. To understand what it means to become a Chaos Space Marine, we must first understand what a Space Marine truly is. These warriors are not simply well-trained soldiers equipped with advanced weaponry. They are post-human creations, genetically engineered super soldiers who have been transformed from baseline humans into living weapons through a brutal process of augmentation and indoctrination. Each Space Marine has undergone the implantation of 19 specialized organs, each grown from the gene seed of their primarch, that fundamentally alter their physiology. They possess 2 hearts, 3 lungs, and bones reinforced with ceramic. Their blood can clot almost instantly. Their bodies can consume almost any organic matter for sustenance, and they can function for days without sleep. Most importantly, they have been psychologically conditioned to know no fear, to feel no doubt, and to serve the Emperor with absolute unwavering loyalty. This extensive conditioning and augmentation makes Space Marines extraordinarily resistant to corruption. Their bodies can withstand environmental toxins that would kill normal humans in seconds. Their minds have been fortified against psychological manipulation through years of hypno-indoctrination. They are living fortresses, designed specifically to resist not just physical threats, but spiritual ones as well. The Emperor himself crafted them to be humanity's ultimate defense against the darkness, creatures capable of standing firm where mortals would flee in terror. And yet, despite all these protections, despite all this conditioning and enhancement, they can still fall. In fact, half of the original 20 Space Marine legions turned traitor during the Horus Heresy, proving that even the mightiest can be brought low. The vulnerability of Space Marines to chaos is one of the setting's great tragedies. These warriors were created to be incorruptible, and yet the very traits that make them such effective fighters can become doorways through which darkness enters. Their superhuman confidence can become arrogance. Their brotherhood can become tribalism. Their devotion to victory can become bloodlust. The Chaos Gods are ancient, patient, and endlessly cunning, and they have had 10,000 years to perfect their methods of corrupting the Emperor's finest. They understand that the brightest lights cast the deepest shadows, and they know exactly how to exploit every flaw, every weakness, every moment of doubt that might exist within even the most loyal warrior. The seeds of corruption. How darkness takes root. The corruption of a Space Marine rarely begins with a dramatic revelation or a sudden moment of betrayal. Instead, it starts small, subtle, almost imperceptible. A whisper in the night, a dream that feels too real, a moment of anger that burns just a bit too hot. The Chaos Gods are masters of manipulation, and they understand that to topple a fortress, you must first find the smallest crack in its foundation. For many Space Marines, corruption begins with disillusionment. These warriors have dedicated their entire existence to the service of the Emperor and the Imperium, believing themselves to be part of something greater, something noble. But what happens when they witness the Imperium's bureaucratic cruelty? When they see innocent civilians sacrificed for strategic advantage? when they realize that the administratum they serve is bloated, corrupt, and often more concerned with maintaining power than actually protecting humanity. These moments of clarity, these glimpses behind the propaganda, can plant seeds of doubt that grow into something far more dangerous. During the Horus Heresy, this disillusionment was weaponized by the word-bearers, who had already fallen to chaos and sought to bring their brother legions with them. They spoke of the Emperor's lies, of how he had hidden the truth about the warp and the gods that dwelled within it. They pointed to the Emperor's abandonment of the Great Crusade, his retreat to Terra to work on mysterious projects, while his sons continued to bleed and die in his name. They asked questions that had no good answers. Why did the Emperor forbid the worship of gods while positioning himself as one? Why did he claim to seek enlightenment and unity while prosecuting a campaign of brutal conquest across the galaxy? These questions, posed to warriors who had never learned to question, became like acid eating away at the foundations of their faith. But intellectual doubt is only one path to corruption. The Chaos Gods offer more direct routes as well, each tailored to exploit different aspects of the human psyche. A warrior who has lost battle brothers might hear Nurgle's whisper, promising an end to pain, an acceptance of inevitable decay, and a strange comfort in disease. A space marine who has fought for centuries without recognition might feel Slanesh's call, offering the pleasures and validation they have been denied. A tactical genius frustrated by the hidebound traditions of his chapter might sense Tzeentch's presence, promising knowledge and the power to reshape reality itself. And for those who live for battle, who find the only truth they need at the edge of a blade. Horn's roar promises endless conflict and glory, earned through martial supremacy. The insidious nature of chaos corruption is that it does not announce itself. The affected Marine does not suddenly realize they are being corrupted. Instead, they rationalize their changing thoughts and feelings. They tell themselves that their growing anger is righteous fury. They convince themselves that their newfound flexibility regarding the chapter's strictures is simply tactical adaptation. They believe that the voices they hear in their dreams are their own subconscious thoughts. The Chaos Gods are patient, and they understand that the most effective corruption is the kind that the victim never recognizes as such until it is far too late. Physical exposure to the warp can accelerate this process dramatically. Space Marines who travel frequently through warp space, who fight on demon worlds, or who are exposed to warp storms find their defenses slowly eroded by the raw psychic energies that permeate these environments. The Geller fields that protect Imperial ships from the warp are not perfect, and even brief exposures can leave marks on both body and soul. A Marine might notice strange dreams after a particularly turbulent warp journey. They might find their thoughts drifting in unusual directions, contemplating concepts that would have once seemed alien to them. These changes accumulate over time, layer upon layer, until the Marine looks in a mirror one day and barely recognizes the person staring back. The role of chaos cults and corrupt individuals within the Imperium cannot be understated. Chaplains who have secretly turned to chaos can use their position of spiritual authority to plant seeds of heresy in their brothers' minds. Librarians, with their psychic gifts, are particularly vulnerable to warp entities and can become conduits for corruption even against their will. And entire chapters can be brought low if their leadership falls, as the bonds of loyalty and obedience that bind Space Marines to their commanders become chains that drag them all into damnation together. One of the most effective tools of corruption is the promise of power. Space Marines are warriors at their core, and they exist in a galaxy where power is often the only thing standing between survival and annihilation. When a Marine faces an enemy they cannot defeat, when they watch their brothers die because they lacked the strength to save them, the Chaos Gods whisper of gifts that could turn the tide. They offer mutations that grant superhuman strength, weapons that can cut through any armor, and sorcerous abilities that can reshape reality itself. And all they ask in return is a small compromise, a tiny acknowledgement, a single act of devotion. The Marine tells themselves they can accept these gifts and remain uncorrupted, that they can use the enemy's power against them. They do not realize that there is no such thing as a free gift from chaos, and that every blessing comes with a price that will eventually be collected. The corruption process is also deeply social. Space Marines exist within chapters, brotherhoods of warriors who have fought and bled together for decades or centuries. When one Marine begins to fall, they often bring others with them, either through active recruitment or simply through the erosion of the chapter's culture. Secret lodges, similar to those that spread corruption during the Horus Heresy, can form within chapters, allowing corrupted Marines to identify and recruit others who might be susceptible. These cabals operate in shadows, slowly expanding their influence until they have the strength to make their move openly. The moment of decision, when a Marine must choose between loyalty to the Emperor and service to chaos, is often not as clear-cut as one might imagine. By the time this choice is presented, the Marine has already been compromised in dozens of small ways. They have already accepted gifts, already participated in rituals, already spoken words that they can never take back. The decision to openly declare for chaos is often simply a formalization of a choice that was made long ago, perhaps without the Marine even realizing it. And once that declaration is made, once the Rubicon is crossed, there is no going back. The Imperium does not forgive traitors, and chaos does not release those who serve it. The four paths to damnation. The Chaos Gods each offer their own unique path to corruption, and the nature of a Space Marine's fall often determines which deity will claim them. Understanding these gods and their methods is essential to understanding what it means to become a Chaos Space Marine. For while all who serve chaos are damned, the specific nature of that damnation varies greatly depending on which power they serve. Horn, the Blood God, is perhaps the most straightforward of the Chaos Gods. He is the embodiment of rage, violence, and martial prowess, and his corruption appeals most strongly to those Space Marines who live for battle. Khorne does not require complex rituals or elaborate theology. His demands are simple: shed blood, take skulls, and never stop fighting. For warriors who have spent their entire lives in combat, who find meaning only in the clash of arms and the roar of battle, Khorne's call can be almost impossible to resist. The transformation into a Khornate berserker begins with rage. Not the disciplined anger that a Space Marine is taught to channel, but something wilder, more primal, more consuming. The affected Marine finds that their fury does not fade after battle, but instead grows stronger. They begin to crave combat, to feel restless and agitated during periods of peace. Their dreams are filled with violence, with visions of endless slaughter that leave them waking in a state of barely controlled aggression. Initially, they might rationalize this as simply an increased combat readiness, a sharpening of their martial instincts. But as the corruption deepens, the rage becomes all-consuming. Khorne's followers undergo dramatic physical transformations. Their muscles bulk and swell, growing to monstrous proportions. Their bones thicken and harden, making them even more difficult to kill. Many develop brass-colored mutations, their skin taking on a metallic sheen that reflects their god's favor. Horns, fangs, and claws are common developments, turning the Marines into something more bestial, more savage. The most devoted may have the Blood God's rune scar itself into their flesh, marking them forever as his chosen. But the physical changes pale in comparison to the mental transformation. Khornate Marines lose their capacity for strategy, for patience, for anything beyond the immediate gratification of violence. They become living embodiments of rage, warriors who know only the desire to kill and keep killing until nothing remains. The sophisticated tactical thinking that once made them formidable is burned away, replaced by a berserker fury that makes them terrifying in close combat, but predictable in their approach. They care nothing for victory in any strategic sense. All that matters is that blood flows and skulls are taken. Khorne cares not from whence the blood flows, only that it does, and his followers have internalized this philosophy completely. The World Eater's Legion exemplifies this transformation. Once tactical masters who used surgical strikes and overwhelming force to achieve victory, they were transformed into mindless butchers, following the implantation of the butcher's nails, archaeotech devices that stimulated the aggression centers of their brains while suppressing other emotions. Combined with Khorne's corruption, the World Eaters became something barely recognizable as Space Marines at all, more akin to feral beasts wearing power armor than disciplined warriors. They charge into battle without thought for tactics or self-preservation, seeking only to close with the enemy and tear them apart with chain axe and bare hands. Nurgle, the Plague Lord, offers a very different path. Where Khorne promises strength through violence, Nurgle promises strength through acceptance. He is the god of decay, disease, and entropy, but also of endurance, resilience, and strange, twisted life. His corruption often begins with despair, targeting those Marines who have witnessed too much death, who have fought too many losing battles, who have seen everything they fought to protect crumble to dust, despite their best efforts. The Sa, Plague, Lord whispers to these warriors, telling them that their struggle is futile, that entropy will claim everything in the end, and that the only rational response is to accept this truth and find peace in decay. He offers relief from pain, an end to suffering, and a peculiar form of contentment that comes from embracing rather than fighting against the inevitable degradation of all things. For Marines who have been fighting an endless war for decades or centuries, who are bone-weary and soul-sick from constant conflict, this offer of rest can be almost impossible to refuse. Physical corruption by Nurgle is perhaps the most grotesque of all the Chaos gods. The affected Marine's flesh begins to rot and decay even as they continue to live. Sores and boils erupt across their skin, weeping foul ichor. Their organs fail and are replaced by supernatural processes that keep them functioning despite their decay. Flies swarm around them, nesting in their wounds and laying eggs in their rotting flesh. Many become bloated and swollen, their bodies distending as gases build up within them. The stench is overwhelming, a miasmic cloud that accompanies them wherever they go. Yet despite this horrific physical state, or perhaps because of it, Nurgle's followers are among the most resilient warriors in the galaxy. They feel no pain, or rather, they have learned to interpret pain as pleasure, as a sign of Grandfather Nurgle's love and attention. Injuries that would kill other warriors barely slow them down. They can survive wounds that would fell even other Chaos Marines, their corrupted bodies animated by forces that transcend normal biology. They are difficult to put down permanently, and even when they fall, they often rise again, animated by the foul energies that saturate their flesh. The psychological transformation is equally profound. Nurgle's followers develop a strange cheerfulness, a joyful acceptance of their fate that seems utterly at odds with their horrific appearance. They see beauty in decay, finding aesthetic pleasure in rot and corruption. They laugh as they spread disease, genuinely delighted to share Grandfather Nurgle's gifts with others. There is a camaraderie among Nurgle's followers that is absent from the other Chaos God's servants, a sense of belonging to a great family of the diseased and dying. They call each other brother with genuine affection, united in their shared corruption and their mutual acceptance of entropy. The Death Guard Legion embodies this transformation perfectly. Once proud warriors known for their endurance and their ability to fight in any environment, they became bloated plague bearers following their corruption during the heresy. Their Primarch, Mortarion, had sought to protect his sons from the corruption he saw creeping through the other legions. But in the end, his very efforts to shield them led to their fall. Trapped in the warp by Nurgle's machinations, dying slowly from supernatural plagues, Mortarion made a pact to save his sons' lives, binding them all to the Plague Lord's service. Now they spread disease across the galaxy, their very presence causing outbreaks of impossible plagues that transform entire worlds into pestilent wastelands. Tzeentch, the Changer of Ways, is the most subtle and perhaps the most dangerous of the Chaos Gods. He is the god of change, ambition, magic, and knowledge, and his corruption targets those Marines with powerful minds, those who think as well as fight. Librarians, tactical geniuses, and those with scholarly inclinations are particularly vulnerable to his influence. Tzeentch does not offer simple solutions or straightforward power. Instead, he presents puzzles, mysteries, and promises of knowledge that could change everything. The corruption begins with curiosity. A Marine discovers a forbidden tome and cannot resist reading it. A librarian explores deeper into the warp than they should, seeking greater understanding of their powers. A chapter master begins to suspect there are truths about the Imperium that have been hidden from him and seeks answers that the ecclesiarchy cannot provide. Tzeentch feeds this desire for knowledge, always offering one more secret, one more revelation, one more piece of the puzzle. But each answer leads to 10 more questions, and each secret learned binds the Marine more tightly to the architect of fate. Physical mutations from Tzeentch's touch are often bizarre and reality-defying. The affected Marine's flesh might become translucent, revealing impossible geometries within. Extra eyes might open across their body, each seeing into different dimensions or time periods. Limbs might shift and change, becoming tentacles one moment and taloned claws the next. Colors that should not exist in real space might dance across their armor, and their very presence might cause minor reality distortions as the warp bleeds through around them. Some Tzeentchian Marines become so mutable that they struggle to maintain a consistent form, their bodies constantly shifting and changing as their god's power flows through them. The true power of Tzeentchian corruption, however, lies in the sorcerous abilities it grants. These Marines become potent psykers, able to manipulate the warp with devastating effect. They can hurl bolts of warp fire, read the strands of fate, and reshape reality itself according to their will. But this power comes at a cost. Every spell cast, every manipulation of the warp binds them more closely to Tzeentch and accelerates their mutation. They become trapped in a cycle where they need their powers to survive, but using those powers transforms them into something increasingly inhuman. The psychological changes are perhaps the most insidious. Tzeentchian Marines become consumed by ambition and paranoia. They see plots and counterplots everywhere, constantly scheming and planning. They trust no one, not even their fellow worshippers of the Changer of Ways, knowing that Tzeentch delights in setting his followers against one another. They become obsessed with accumulating knowledge and power, willing to sacrifice anything and anyone in pursuit of their goals. Many lose their sense of identity entirely, becoming little more than vehicles for Tzeentch's will, carrying out plans whose ultimate purpose they cannot fathom. The Thousand Sons exemplify the dangers of Tzeentchian corruption. Once a legion of scholar warriors who sought to perfect the use of psychic powers, they fell to Tzeentch through their pride and their refusal to acknowledge the dangers of delving too deeply into the warp. When their gene seed became corrupted and their bodies began to mutate uncontrollably, their chief librarian, Ahriman, cast a powerful spell known as the Rubric to try to save them. The spell stabilized the mutation of the most powerful psykers in the Legion, but turned all the others into animated suits of armor filled with dust, their souls bound to their equipment, but their bodies and minds destroyed. Now the Thousand Sons march to war as an army of automata led by powerful sorcerers, all of them bound in service to the god whose gifts destroyed them. Slaanesh, the Dark Prince, is the youngest of the Chaos Gods, but no less dangerous for it. Born from the decadence and excess of the ancient Eldari Empire, Slaanesh embodies pleasure, perfection, obsession, and excess in all its forms. The corruption of Slaanesh targets those Marines who seek excellence, who pursue mastery, who desire to transcend their limitations. It is a subtle corruption, one that often begins with admirable traits and twists them into something monstrous. The path to Slaanesh often starts with perfectionism. A Marine becomes obsessed with perfect technique, spending hours practicing the same sword form until it is flawless. An apothecary becomes fascinated with pushing the limits of the gene seed, seeking to create ever more perfect warriors. An artist warrior of a more culturally inclined chapter becomes consumed with creating beauty in all things, even in death and war. These obsessions grow and deepen, becoming all-consuming passions that crowd out all other concerns. And as they deepen, they begin to transform, because Slaanesh does not distinguish between noble obsession and base desire. All passion feeds the Dark Prince equally. Physical mutations from Slaanesh are often beautiful in a terrible way. The corrupted Marine becomes supernaturally attractive, their features becoming more refined and perfect, even as they grow more alien. Their movements become preternaturally graceful, flowing like water. Their voices become hypnotic, able to entrance listeners with nothing more than casual conversation. But beneath this beauty lies horror. Many develop additional limbs or sensory organs, seeking to experience pleasure through every possible avenue. Their senses become painfully acute, able to perceive things that normal humans cannot, which often drives them to seek ever more extreme stimuli to feel anything at all. Claws, talons, and venomous appendages often appear, weapons designed to inflict exquisite pain on their victims. The psychological transformation is perhaps the most disturbing. Slaaneshi Marines lose all sense of restraint or moderation. They pursue sensation for its own sake, seeking pleasure and pain with equal fervor because both represent intense experience. They become cruel and sadistic, finding aesthetic beauty in suffering and death. They may engage in elaborate rituals of torment, carefully calibrated to produce specific responses in their victims. Music, art, and combat all become venues for the expression of their obsessions, and they seek to make everything they do a perfect expression of their devotion to excess. What makes Slaaneshi corruption particularly insidious is that it often appears rational to the corrupted Marine. They tell themselves they are simply seeking to be the best they can be, to push beyond normal limitations, to achieve perfection in their chosen field. They do not realize they have crossed a line until they are so far beyond it that return is impossible. And by the time they understand what has happened, they no longer want to return. The pursuit of ever greater sensation and ever more perfect expression of their art has become their entire reason for existence. The Emperor's children embody this transformation. Once a legion devoted to martial perfection and artistic excellence, they fell to Slaanesh through their pride and their refusal to accept any limitations on their pursuit of perfection. Their primarch, Fulgrim, was corrupted through a demon-possessed sword and led his entire legion into damnation. Now they are hedonists and sensation seekers who engage in acts of such depravity that even other Chaos Marines find them disturbing. They have become living embodiments of excess, forever chasing highs they can never quite reach. Their senses so dulled by constant overstimulation that only the most extreme experiences can penetrate their jaded awareness. The physical metamorphosis. The transformation of a Space Marine into a servant of chaos is not just spiritual or psychological. It manifests in the flesh itself, warping and reshaping the Marine's body in ways that reflect both their patron god and their own personal journey into damnation. These physical changes are often gradual, starting small and almost imperceptible before accelerating into grotesque transformations that render the Marine barely recognizable as human. The first changes are often so subtle that they can be dismissed or hidden. A Space Marine might notice that a wound has healed with strange scarring, forming patterns that seem almost deliberate. Their skin might develop an unusual tint, perhaps taking on a faint metallic sheen or a sickly pallor. Their eyes might change color or develop an inner glow that becomes visible in darkness. These initial mutations can often be concealed beneath armor or explained away as battle scars or side effects of prolonged warp exposure. The Marine might convince themselves that nothing is truly wrong, that these are merely cosmetic changes of no real significance. But chaos corruption never stops at cosmetic changes. As the Marine falls deeper into the embrace of the dark gods, the mutations accelerate and become impossible to hide. Bones restructure themselves, growing thicker in some places, extending into spikes or horns in others. Muscles bulk up beyond even the superhuman norm of standard space marines, granting inhuman strength but often at the cost of speed or flexibility. The Marine's face might stretch and distort, their jaw elongating into something almost bestial, their teeth growing into fangs. Extra limbs might sprout from unexpected locations, tentacles or claws, or grasping appendages that operate with an unsettling independence. One of the most dramatic physical changes affects the Marine's power armor. This sacred war gear, blessed by the Mechanicus and honored through centuries of service, does not remain unchanged. The corruption that seeps through the wearer's flesh extends into the armor itself, warping and reshaping it. The clean lines and functional design begin to twist and flow, growing organic curves and baroque decorations. Spikes emerge from the armor's surface, some made of corrupted metal, and others apparently composed of mutated bone. The armor may develop mouths that scream silently, or eyes that blink and stare at observers. In extreme cases, the armor essentially fuses with the wearer's body, becoming less equipment and more an extension of their mutated flesh. The speed and extent of these transformations depend on several factors. Time spent in the warp dramatically accelerates mutation, as the corrupting energies there work directly on flesh unprotected by the barriers that separate real space from the immaterium. Marines who dwell on demon worlds or within the Eye of Terror transform much more rapidly than those who remain in real space. The level of devotion to the Chaos Gods also matters. A Marine who wholeheartedly embraces their patron deity and actively seeks their favor will receive more mutations more quickly than one who tries to resist or who serves chaos reluctantly. Interestingly, not all Chaos Marines display the same level of mutation. The degree of physical corruption varies widely depending on the individual, their patron god, and their personal journey. Some become hideously mutated within years of turning traitor, their bodies twisted almost beyond recognition. Others maintain an appearance relatively close to that of a standard space marine even after centuries of service to chaos, their corruption manifesting more in their behavior and powers than in obvious physical changes. The Night Lords and Alpha Legion, for example, tend to avoid excessive mutation, viewing it as a weakness or a loss of control rather than a blessing. For those who fully embrace chaos, however, mutations are seen as gifts from the gods, marks of favor that demonstrate their devotion and prowess. Cornate Marines proudly display their brass-colored skin and their combat-earned horns. Nurglites celebrate each new boil and pustule as a sign of grandfather's love. Zentian sorcerers view their reality-defying mutations as proof of their mastery over change itself. And Slaneshi devotees incorporate their mutations into elaborate aesthetics, turning even the most grotesque changes into displays of terrible beauty. The pain associated with these transformations varies as dramatically as the mutations themselves. Some changes happen slowly enough that the Marine's body adapts, the process causing only mild discomfort spread over months or years. Others occur rapidly and violently, the Marine's flesh tearing and reforming in moments of excruciating agony. But perhaps most disturbing are the mutations that feel good, changes that come with waves of pleasure that only accelerate the Marine's corruption as they learn to welcome the physical transformation as an ecstatic experience rather than something to be endured. One of the most horrifying aspects of chaos mutation is that there is a limit to how much change a body can sustain while remaining a functional, intelligent being. Space Marines are more resilient than baseline humans in this regard. Their enhanced physiology able to accommodate mutations that would kill or destroy the minds of normal people. But even Space Marines have limits. Those who accumulate too many mutations, who accept too many gifts from the gods, risk degenerating into chaos spawn, mindless masses of writhing flesh that retain no trace of their former intelligence or identity. This fate terrifies most Chaos Marines, and they must constantly balance their desire for more power with the need to maintain control over their own transformation. The demon-possessed represent an extreme form of physical transformation. Some Chaos Marines willingly allow demons to possess their bodies, believing that this fusion of mortal and immortal will grant them power beyond measure. In some cases, this works, creating beings of terrible potency who combine the martial skill of the Space Marine with the reality-warping abilities of the demon. These possessed become living weapons, able to manifest demonic weapons from their own flesh and channel the powers of the warp through their transformed bodies. But possession always comes at a cost. The demon shares control of the body, and even willing hosts often find their own personality subsumed by the otherworldly intelligence that now dwells within them. The relationship between a Chaos Marine and their mutating body is complex. Some embrace every change, seeing themselves as becoming something better than they were, transcending the limitations of their original form. They view their transformation as evolution, as ascension toward a perfect expression of chaos. Others struggle with their changing bodies, mourning the loss of their human form, even as they continue down the path that causes further mutation. They may try to hide their mutations beneath layers of armor and cloth, or seek ways to slow or control the changes, though such efforts are rarely successful in the long term. For Marines who began their service in the time of the heresy and have endured 10,000 years in the Eye of Terror, the physical changes can be profound. These ancient warriors have been exposed to warp energies for subjective millennia, and many barely resemble Space Marines anymore. They may have grown to enormous size, towering over even other Chaos Marines. Their flesh might have partially transcended physical reality, phasing in and out of existence, or displaying characteristics that should be impossible in real space. Some have become walking repositories of demonic energy, their bodies serving as anchors that allow lesser demons to manifest in their presence. They are living legends among the traitor legions, warriors whose very existence demonstrates what awaits those who fully commit to the path of chaos. The death of the soul. While the physical transformations of becoming a Chaos Space Marine are dramatic and visible, the changes to the psyche are perhaps even more profound. To fall to chaos is to fundamentally alter everything about how one thinks, feels, and perceives reality. The psychological metamorphosis strips away the conditioning and beliefs that defined the Marine as a loyal servant of the Emperor and replaces them with entirely new values, motivations, and ways of understanding the universe. The process begins with the erosion of certainty. Space Marines are created to be absolutely certain in their purpose, to never doubt their cause or question their orders. This unwavering conviction is one of their greatest strengths, allowing them to face horrors that would break normal humans without hesitation. But it is also a vulnerability, because once that certainty is compromised, the entire structure of the Marine's identity becomes unstable. The first real doubts that creep into a Marine's mind are often the most dangerous, because they create cracks through which further corruption can flow. As the Marine falls deeper into chaos, they begin to develop new frameworks for understanding the world. The black and white morality they were taught, where the Emperor and the Imperium represented absolute good and everything else was evil to be purged, gives way to a more complex and more corrupted worldview. They come to see the Imperium not as humanity's savior, but as a tyrannical system that oppresses and exploits its own citizens. They begin to view the Emperor not as a god to be worshipped, but as a tyrant who deceived them, or even as a corpse whose supposed divinity is nothing more than propaganda. This inversion of values is crucial to the psychological transformation because it allows the Marine to rationalize their betrayal, not as weakness or corruption, but as enlightenment. The Chaos Gods provide new sources of meaning and purpose to replace what has been lost. Where once the Marine fought for the Emperor's vision of a united humanity, they now fight for the glory of their chosen god. Where once they valued discipline and self-control, they now embrace the primal emotions their god embodies. A Khornate Marine finds meaning in the purity of combat, in the straightforward simplicity of kill or be killed. A Nurglite discovers a strange peace in accepting entropy and decay as the natural order. A Tzeentchian becomes consumed with unraveling the mysteries of the universe and reshaping reality according to their will. A Slaaneshi pursues perfection and sensation as ends in themselves, finding purpose in the pursuit of ever greater experiences. One of the most significant psychological changes is the transformation of the Marines' relationship with their brothers. In loyal chapters, the bonds of brotherhood are sacred, and Marines would willingly die for their comrades. But chaos corrupts even these bonds. Depending on which god they serve and how deeply they have fallen, Chaos Marines may come to view their fellow traitors as rivals to be surpassed, tools to be used, or obstacles to be removed. The camaraderie that characterized their former lives becomes twisted into something darker. Paranoia in the case of Tzeentchian Marines, competitive violence for Khornates, shared depravity for Slaaneshi, or the diseased fellowship of Nurglites. This erosion of trust and genuine connection is one of the tragedies of becoming a Chaos Marine. Even those who turn traitor together, who share the experience of falling to chaos, often find their relationships deteriorating over time. The very nature of chaos encourages betrayal and self-interest over loyalty and sacrifice. Warbands splinter and reform constantly, their members shifting alliances based on power dynamics and personal advantage rather than any deeper bonds. The sense of belonging that came from being part of a chapter, part of something greater than oneself, is replaced by a more mercenary and transactional set of relationships. Memory becomes another casualty of the transformation. For the ancient traitors who turned during the Horus Heresy, 10,000 years have passed in real space, though subjective time in the warp can be much shorter or longer. These warriors often struggle with memory, their recollections of their former lives fading or becoming confused. They may remember the broad strokes of their past, but lose the details that made them individuals. Their time as loyalists may come to seem like someone else's life, something that happened to a person they no longer recognize as themselves. This loss of continuity can be deeply disturbing for those Marines who retain enough self-awareness to notice it happening. A slow dissolution of identity that mirrors the physical, mutations overtaking their bodies. For some Chaos Marines, this loss of self is liberating rather than horrifying. They embrace the transformation, seeing it as shedding unnecessary baggage. They argue that their former identities were artificial constructs imposed by the Imperium's conditioning, and that becoming something new represents freedom rather than loss. These Marines often adopt new names, titles that reflect their devotion to chaos, rather than their origins in the Imperium. They may actively work to forget their past, viewing it as irrelevant to who they are now. The development of new emotional patterns is another key aspect of the psychological transformation. Space Marines are conditioned to suppress most emotions, channeling everything into focused determination and carefully controlled aggression. But service to chaos breaks down these controls, allowing, and in fact encouraging, the full expression of whatever emotions their patron god embodies. Khornates learn to ride waves of pure rage, finding strength in fury that would have once compromised their tactical thinking. Nurglites develop a strange contentment and acceptance that seems at odds with their horrific physical state. Tzeentchians become consumed by curiosity and ambition, their thoughts racing through endless permutations of plans and schemes. Slaaneshi lose themselves in sensation and pursuit of perfection, experiencing emotions with an intensity that normal space marines never could. These new emotional patterns fundamentally change how the marine experiences and interacts with the world. A Khaornate marine no longer analyzes a tactical situation dispassionately. They see it through the lens of where the best fighting will be, where they can shed the most blood. A Nurglite marine stops seeing death and decay as enemies to be fought and begins viewing them as natural processes to be accepted and even celebrated. The Tzeentchian marine can barely focus on the present, so caught up are they in visions of possible futures and endless stratagems. The Slaaneshi marine becomes so focused on aesthetic and sensory perfection that practical concerns fade into irrelevance. Perhaps most disturbing is the way that Chaos Marines often come to view baseline humans. As loyalists, they saw themselves as humanity's protectors, superhuman warriors, standing between civilians and the darkness. But as traitors, this relationship inverts. Humans become resources to be exploited, slaves for their forges, sacrifices for their rituals, raw materials for their gene seed, or simply obstacles in their path. The psychological distance between a space marine and a normal human was always significant, but chaos widens this gap into an unbridgeable chasm. Many Chaos Marines come to view baseline humans the way humans might view insects: abundant, fragile, and ultimately expendable. The question of conscience is complex among Chaos Marines. Do they feel guilt or regret for their betrayal and their actions? The answer varies dramatically by individual. Some fully embrace their new nature and feel no remorse whatsoever, viewing their past loyalty as naive foolishness. Others are haunted by what they have become, retaining enough of their former values to recognize the horror of their transformation, even as they continue down the path of corruption. These Marines may tell themselves they had no choice, that they were forced into their betrayal by circumstances beyond their control. But in quiet moments, they know this is a lie. And some simply stop caring about questions of right and wrong, their moral framework so thoroughly corrupted that such concerns become meaningless. Life in the Eye of Terror. The Eye of Terror is perhaps the most infamous region of space in the entire galaxy, a massive warp rift where the immaterial realm of chaos bleeds directly into real space. It is here that most of the original traitor legions fled after their defeat in the Horus Heresy, and it remains the primary stronghold of Chaos Space Marine forces to this day. To understand what it means to be a Chaos Space Marine, one must understand what existence is like within this hellish domain. The Eye of Terror is not a place in any normal sense. It is a region where the physical laws of the universe break down, where the warp and real space overlap and interpenetrate. Time does not flow consistently. A minute might pass as an hour, or a century might compress into a day. Geography is not stable. Landmarks shift and change. Distances are meaningless, and space itself twists into impossible configurations. The sky, if it can be called that, often displays scenes from the warp itself, the realms of the chaos gods, visible through tears in reality, demon hosts marching across vistas of impossible color, or simply roiling chaos that defies human perception. Within the eye exist hundreds of demon worlds, planets that have been so thoroughly corrupted by chaos that they have essentially become part of the Imperium, while retaining some physical reality. These worlds are nightmares made manifest, their very landscapes expressions of chaos in all its terrible variety. A demon world dedicated to Khorne might have oceans of blood, mountains made from skulls, and an atmosphere that constantly rings with the sounds of endless battle. A Nurglite daemon world could be covered in pestilent swamps, its air thick with disease-bearing miasma, its surface crawling with mutated life that thrives in decay. Tzeentchian demon worlds defy normal perception, their landscapes shifting and changing moment by moment. Crystalline structures forming and dissolving in patterns that suggest meaning but reveal nothing. Slaaneshi daemon worlds are terrible paradises of excess, beautiful and horrifying in equal measure. offering pleasures and pains beyond mortal imagination. Chaos Space Marines make their homes on these daemon worlds, establishing fortresses and strongholds from which they can plan their raids against the Imperium. These fortresses are nothing like the ordered, functional structures of Imperial architecture. They are twisted monuments to excess and corruption, growing organically from the landscape around them, their architecture defying normal geometry. They may be partially alive, their walls breathing and bleeding, their corridors shifting configuration to confuse intruders. They house not just the Space Marines themselves, but also their slaves, their cultists, and sometimes demons who have been bound to serve them, or who simply find the place conducive to their nature. Daily life for a Chaos Space Marine in the Eye of Terror is vastly different from that of their loyalist counterparts. There are no formal training schedules, no regimented drills, no structured hierarchy beyond what individual warlords enforce through strength and fear. Instead, existence revolves around endless warfare. Chaos. Space Marine warbands fight each other as often as they fight the Imperium, battling over resources, slaves, territory, or simply because violence is what they know. These conflicts range from minor skirmishes to massive campaigns that engulf entire demon worlds. Resources are a constant concern within the Eye. While demon worlds provide some sustenance and materials, Chaos Space Marines still require many of the same things they needed when they were loyalists: weapons, armor, ammunition, gene seed for creating new Marines, and occasionally technology that cannot be manufactured within the Eye due to the unreliability of conventional machinery in such a warp-saturated environment. This necessitates regular raids into real space to steal what they need, bringing them into conflict with Imperial forces and perpetuating the cycle of violence that defines their existence. The process of creating new Chaos Space Marines is significantly more brutal and less reliable than the careful procedures used by loyalist chapters. Gene seed harvested from fallen traitors is often corrupted, leading to unpredictable results when implanted. The recruits themselves are usually taken from slave populations or captured during raids on Imperial worlds, rather than being carefully selected for genetic compatibility and psychological suitability. The survival rate is lower, and those who do survive often begin their existence as Chaos Marines, already bearing mutations and signs of corruption. Some warbands rely on different methods entirely. They recruit from renegade chapters, Space Marines who have turned traitor in the millennia since the heresy. These newly fallen Marines bring fresh gene seed and equipment, bolstering the ancient traitor forces. Others bargain with dark Mechanicum forge worlds within the Eye, trading war booty for weapons and war gear. Some even steal gene seed from loyalist chapters specifically, using the pure seed to create new warriors who can be corrupted over time. The relationship between Chaos Space Marines and daemons is complex and varies greatly. Some Marines summon and bind demons as weapons and servants, using their knowledge of warpcraft to compel these entities to serve. Others form alliances with demon princes or greater demons, working together towards shared goals. Still others are essentially servants of demonic powers, taking orders from entities far more powerful than themselves. And in some cases, the relationship is antagonistic, with Marines finding themselves defending their strongholds against demonic incursions, or competing with demon hosts for the favor of the Chaos gods. Time dilation within the Eye means that the Chaos Space Marines, who participated in the Horus Heresy 10,000 years ago, may have experienced only a few centuries or even decades of subjective time. Some have experienced far more, aging in reverse of the normal flow of time or living through repeating temporal loops. This temporal instability has psychological consequences. These ancient traitors often have fragmented memories and confused timelines, unable to clearly remember the order in which events occurred, or even whether certain events happened at all. It also means that to them, the heresy feels recent, their betrayal still fresh, their hatred of the Emperor and the Imperium still burning hot, rather than cooling over millennia. Social structures within Chaos warbands are generally based on strength and personal charisma, rather than any formal rank system. A Chaos Lord maintains control through a combination of martial prowess, tactical success, and the favor they enjoy from their patron god. Challengers can rise at any time, and leadership often changes through combat. This creates a dynamic but unstable social environment where alliances shift constantly and long-term planning is difficult. The largest and most successful warbands, like Abaddon's Black Legion, maintain some semblance of structure and discipline, but even they are subject to the centrifugal forces that constantly threaten to tear Chaos forces apart. Relationships between Chaos Marines are transactional and competitive, rather than based on genuine camaraderie. While some bonds do form, particularly between Marines who have fought together for centuries, these relationships are always underlaid with the knowledge that betrayal is possible and often expected. Trust is a rare commodity, and those who display it are often seen as weak or naive. This creates a lonely existence in many ways, with each Marine essentially isolated, even when surrounded by others of their kind. Despite the horrors of existence within the Eye, many Chaos Marines would not choose to leave even if they could. They have grown accustomed to the freedom from restraint, the absence of the Imperium's rules and regulations, the opportunity to pursue their desires without limit. They have made peace with, or even embraced, the mutations that mark them, and they genuinely believe in the superiority of chaos over the false order of the Imperium. For them, life in the Eye is not a punishment or an exile, but a form of liberation, however twisted that liberation might appear to outside observers. Dark gifts and terrible powers. One of the most seductive aspects of becoming a Chaos Space Marine is the acquisition of powers and abilities far beyond those possessed by their loyalist counterparts. The Chaos Gods are generous with their gifts, bestowing upon their faithful servants capabilities that can turn the tide of battles and elevate individual warriors to the level of legends. But as with everything related to chaos, these gifts come with prices that are not always apparent at the moment they are received. The most obvious enhancements are physical. Beyond the mutations discussed earlier, Chaos Marines often receive targeted improvements to specific capabilities. A Cornate warrior might find their strength increase to monstrous levels, able to cleave through ceramite armor with their bare hands. A Nurglite Marine might become nearly indestructible, their corrupted flesh able to regenerate from wounds that would kill even other Chaos Marines. Zentchian sorcerers might find their minds expanded, able to process and calculate at speeds that make them tactical geniuses. Slaaneshi Marines might receive preternatural speed and reflexes, moving faster than the eye can follow. Demonic weapons represent another category of gift from the Dark Gods. These are not mere tools of war, but sentient artifacts, weapons that house the essence of bound demons or that have been forged in the depths of the warp from materials that should not exist in real space. A demon weapon might take the form of a sword that burns with warp fire, capable of cutting through any material and drinking the souls of those it slays. Or it could be a gun that fires bolts of pure chaos energy, projectiles that warp and mutate whatever they strike. These weapons are incredibly powerful, but they are also dangerous to their wielders. The demon within the weapon has its own agenda, and it may attempt to influence or even possess the Marine who carries it. Chaos. Marines also gain access to warp-based abilities that loyalists would consider sorcery. Even those who are not full psychers can learn to channel the energies of chaos in limited ways. They might be able to invoke the names of demons to gain temporary bursts of strength or speed. They could perform rituals that summon warp entities to fight alongside them. Some develop the ability to cause fear in their enemies simply through their presence, their connection to chaos, creating an aura of supernatural dread. Others learn to corrupt machinery or even living creatures through touch, spreading the taint of their patron god. For true psychers among the Chaos Marines, the possibilities expand dramatically. Free from the Imperium's restrictions on psychic power and the constant vigilance of its sanctioned psykers, chaos sorcerers can delve deep into the most forbidden aspects of warpcraft. They learn spells that can disintegrate enemies with a gesture, rituals that can summon entire demon hosts, and incantations that can reshape reality itself on a localized scale. The most powerful among them become nearly godlike in their abilities, able to stand against entire armies single-handedly. The Thousand Suns Traitor Legion exemplifies this mastery of sorcerous power. Their rubric marines are essentially magical automatons, suits of armor animated by the spirits of dead sorcerers and controlled by their still-living brothers. The sorcerers who command them can cast devastating spells, hurling warp fire and calling down change upon their enemies. Their most powerful champions have transcended physical limitations entirely, becoming beings of pure magical energy, barely contained within physical forms. Combat prowess also increases dramatically. Centuries or millennia of continuous warfare hone Chaos Marines into weapons of terrifying efficiency. They have fought in conditions and against enemies that would be unimaginable to most loyalists. They have battled demons in the depths of the warp, fought other Chaos Marines in the bloody conflicts within the Eye of Terror, and participated in countless raids against Imperial forces. This experience, combined with the enhancements granted by their patron gods, makes them extraordinarily dangerous opponents. Many Chaos Marines also develop specialized combat styles that reflect their allegiances. Hornet Berserkers have perfected techniques that maximize bloodshed, using dual chain axes or massive two-handed weapons to tear through enemy formations. They fight with no thought for defense, all aggression and forward momentum, and their experience has taught them how to make this seemingly suicidal approach devastatingly effective. Noise Marines of Slanesh wield sonic weaponry that causes horrific damage through sound waves, and they have learned to create cacophonies that can shake apart fortifications or cause enemy soldiers to tear at their own ears in agony. The ability to bind and command demons is another power that many Chaos Marines acquire. Through pacts, rituals, or simply through the favor they enjoy with their patron god, they gain the ability to summon demonic entities to serve them. These demons might fight alongside the Marines in battle, perform tasks for them, or provide information and counsel. The most powerful Chaos Lords can call upon greater demons, entities of immense power that can turn the tide of entire campaigns. But demon binding is always risky. These entities are not slaves, but independent beings with their own goals, and they will exploit any weakness in the binding to break free or turn on their summoner. The possession of ancient war gear is another advantage many Chaos Marines enjoy, particularly those who turned traitor during the heresy. They carry weapons and wear armor from the Great Crusade era, equipment that was built with techniques and technologies that have since been lost or forbidden. These artifacts are often superior to modern Imperial equipment, and they have been further enhanced through millennia of exposure to chaos energies. A bolter from the heresy era might fire rounds that burn with warp fire. Armor from that period might have integrated capabilities that modern artificers can barely understand, much less replicate. However, all these gifts come with costs that become apparent over time. The mutations that grant strength also draw the Marine further from their humanity. The demon weapons that make them formidable in combat also whisper corruption into their minds, slowly subverting their will. The sorcerous powers that allow them to reshape reality also accelerate their physical transformation, pushing them ever closer to the threshold where they might degenerate into chaos spawn. The favor of the gods is fickle, and those who rely too heavily on gifted power may find themselves abandoned at crucial moments. There is also the constant pressure to achieve more, to earn greater gifts, to prove oneself worthy of continued divine favor. The Chaos Gods are generous with their servants, but they are also demanding. A Marine who has received great gifts is expected to achieve great victories in return. Failure can result in those gifts being withdrawn or twisted into curses. This creates a treadmill of escalating corruption, where each gift received necessitates greater achievements, which require more gifts, and so on, in a cycle that typically ends either in ascension to demonhood or degeneration into chaos spawn. The dynamic between different types of power is also important. A Chaos Marine who relies primarily on martial prowess might look down on sorcerers as weak or corrupted. Sorcerers might view purely martial champions as blunt instruments lacking subtlety. Those blessed with mutations might see themselves as favored by the gods, while those who maintain a more baseline appearance might pride themselves on their control and discipline. These tensions create hierarchies and conflicts within warbands, with different factions advocating for different approaches to gaining and using power. The ultimate fates: spawn or prince. For every Chaos Space Marine, there are ultimately only a few possible endings to their dark journey. They might die in battle, their gene seed harvested and used to create new warriors. They might be destroyed completely, their souls consumed by demons or obliterated by weapons that tear at the fabric of their being. But for those who survive, for those who continue to accumulate gifts and mutations and power, there are two primary destinations: degeneration into a mindless chaos spawn, or ascension to become a demon prince. These represent the absolute extremes of the Chaos Space Marine experience, the worst and best outcomes that await those who serve the dark gods. Chaos spawn are perhaps the most tragic fate that can befall a Space Marine. These creatures were once proud warriors, enhanced humans who stood as humanity's defenders, but they accepted too many gifts, accumulated too many mutations, or simply failed to maintain control over their transformation. The result is a being that retains only the faintest traces of what it once was. Chaos. Spawn are masses of writhing flesh, constantly shifting and changing, covered in eyes and mouths and limbs that serve no coherent purpose. They possess no intelligence, no self-awareness, only bestial instincts and an insatiable hunger. The transformation into chaos spawn can happen suddenly or gradually. A Marine who has been steadily mutating might wake one day to find their mind clouded, their thoughts fragmenting, their sense of self dissolving as their body undergoes a final, catastrophic transformation. Or it might happen in the heat of battle, the Marine calling upon their patron god for one more gift, one more surge of power, only to receive more than their body and mind can handle. The change is irreversible. Once a Marine has become chaos spawn, there is no going back, no redemption, no restoration of what was lost. Other Chaos Marines regard spawn with a mixture of pity and contempt. They are useful in battle, driven forward as mindless attack beasts who can absorb enemy fire and cause chaos in enemy formations. But they are also cautionary tales, visible reminders of what awaits those who lose control of their transformation or who seek too much too quickly. Some warbands treat their spawn relatively well, viewing them as brothers who suffered unfortunate fates. Others use them as disposable shock troops, caring nothing for their survival. And some Chaos Lords deliberately create spawn from captured loyalists or failed aspirants, using them as both weapons and warnings. At the opposite extreme lies the possibility of ascension to become a demon prince. This represents the ultimate reward for service to chaos, a transformation that elevates the Marine beyond mortality entirely. A demon prince is no longer truly human or even Space Marine. They have become a creature of the warp, an immortal entity bound to their patron god, but possessed of independent will and godlike power. They are enormous, typically standing twice the height of a normal Space Marine or even larger. They possess abilities that defy mortal comprehension, the power to fly through the air or traverse the warp at will, to reshape reality with a thought, to command legions of demons as their servants. The process of ascending to demon princehood requires extraordinary achievement. A Chaos Lord must prove themselves worthy through great victories, mighty sacrifices, or acts that perfectly embody the values of their patron god. A cornate champion might need to slay 1,000 foes in a single battle. A Nurglite might need to spread a plague that devastates an entire sector. A Tsientkian sorcerer might need to unravel some crucial skein of fate or master the most forbidden of sorceries. A Slaaneshi might need to create something of such perfect beauty or such exquisite horror that even their god takes notice. When a Marine has proven themselves worthy, the transformation is often dramatic. Their body erupts with demonic energy, flesh and spirit fusing with the power of the warp. They grow to enormous size, their physical form becoming a perfect expression of their patron god's nature. Wings may burst from their shoulders, granting them the power of flight. Their strength increases 100-fold. They gain mastery over aspects of the warp itself, able to manipulate reality in ways that were impossible before. Most importantly, they achieve immortality of a sort. As a demon, they can be banished back to the warp if their physical form is destroyed, but they cannot truly die as long as their patron god continues to exist. However, ascension to demon princehood is not without its costs. The new demon prince loses something of their independence and free will. They become part of their patron god's power structure, subject to the god's whims and desires in ways they were not as mortals. They can no longer sustain themselves in real space indefinitely as they could when they were flesh and blood. Maintaining physical manifestation outside the warp requires continuous effort and energy. They are vulnerable to banishment by certain weapons and rituals that would not have affected them when they were mortal. And perhaps most significantly, they have essentially left humanity behind entirely, becoming something utterly alien that can never return to what they once were. The number of Chaos Space Marines who achieve this ascension is tiny compared to the multitudes who fall into spawnhood or simply die in battle. The demon princes who do emerge become legendary figures within the Chaos forces, warlords whose very names strike fear across the galaxy. Several of the original traitor primarchs have ascended to demon princehood, becoming some of the most powerful beings in the Eye of Terror. Regular Chaos Lords who achieve this transformation become rivals to these demon primarchs, though they are typically less powerful due to their more limited origins. Between these two extremes, many Chaos Marines find themselves walking a knife's edge. They seek to accumulate enough power and favor to achieve ascension, but they must do so carefully to avoid crossing the line into uncontrolled mutation that leads to spawnhood. This creates a constant tension in their existence, a need to balance ambition with caution, to seek the god's favor without losing themselves entirely in the process. Some Marines deliberately limit their exposure to chaos, accepting fewer gifts and maintaining tighter control over their transformation, in hopes of extending their existence long enough to achieve ascension. Others throw themselves into the pursuit of power, willing to risk everything for the chance at immortality. The choice between pursuing ascension or avoiding spawnhood varies by individual and by legion. The Death Guard, for example, tend to be more relaxed about mutation, viewing it as Nurgle's blessing and accepting whatever changes come. The Night Lords, in contrast, often avoid heavy mutation, preferring to remain as close to their baseline form as possible and relying on skill and terror tactics rather than demonic gifts. The Wordbearers actively seek ascension, viewing it as the ultimate expression of their faith in the Chaos Gods. The World Eaters care little either way, so consumed by rage that concerns about their ultimate fate barely register. The Long War Without End. For 10,000 years, the Chaos Space Marines have waged what they call the Long War against the Imperium of Man. This conflict is not a conventional war with strategic objectives and realistic victory conditions. It is an existential struggle born from hatred, betrayal, and the insatiable demands of the Dark Gods. To be a Chaos Space Marine is to be forever locked in this conflict, attacking an empire that has endured for millennia and shows no signs of falling despite everything thrown against it. The motivations driving the long war vary from warband to warband and even from individual to individual. For some, it is simple revenge. The Imperium branded them traitors, hunted them relentlessly, and drove them into the eye of terror. Every raid, every attack is payback for that treatment. For others, it is ideological. They genuinely believe that the Imperium is a corrupt and dying empire, and that only through chaos can humanity evolve and survive. They see themselves not as traitors, but as visionaries, attempting to tear down a failed system to build something better in its place, however twisted that better might be. Many Chaos Marines fight simply because it is what they know how to do. They are warriors, and war is their purpose. The specifics of who they fight and why matter less than the act of fighting itself. This is especially true for Hornate Marines, who care nothing for strategic objectives beyond ensuring there are enemies to kill and blood to shed. But it applies to others as well. After millennia of constant warfare, the Long War has become its own justification, needing no deeper purpose than its own continuation. The tactical approach to the Long War varies dramatically depending on the warband and its leadership. Some engage in carefully planned raids, striking at specific targets to capture gene seed, steal technology, or disrupt Imperial supply lines. These operations can be sophisticated, involving infiltration, deception, and precise timing. Others prefer massed assaults, throwing their entire force against heavily defended Imperial positions in the hope of overwhelming them through sheer violence. And some simply raid at random, attacking whatever targets present themselves without any broader strategy beyond causing as much damage as possible. The Black Crusades represent the largest and most coordinated chaos offensives against the Imperium. These are massive campaigns led by Abaddon the Despoiler, who has launched 13 such crusades over the millennia. Each Black Crusade involves multiple traitor legions, uncounted demon hosts, and the full might of the chaos forces within the Eye of Terror, all directed at breaking the Imperium's defenses and carving a path to Terror itself. While none have fully succeeded in reaching Terror, each has caused catastrophic damage to Imperial territories near the Eye of Terror, and the 13th ultimately succeeded in splitting the galaxy in half with the creation of the Great Rift. But most Chaos Marine activity occurs on a much smaller scale. Warbands numbering in the dozens or hundreds launch raids against isolated Imperial worlds, space stations, or shipping lanes. They hit targets of opportunity, striking from the warp and disappearing before major Imperial forces can respond. These raids serve multiple purposes. They acquire resources needed to sustain the warband. They spread fear and chaos among Imperial populations. They satisfy the demands of the Chaos Gods for blood and souls, and they provide the warriors with the combat they crave. The question of whether Chaos Marines truly believe they can win the Long War is complicated. The most optimistic believe that the Imperium is slowly dying, weakening over millennia, and that eventually it will collapse from internal decay as much as external pressure. They point to the increasing frequency of warp storms, the spread of chaos cults within Imperial territory, and the strain placed on the Imperium by fighting on so many fronts as evidence that victory is possible. The pessimists, or perhaps realists, recognize that the Long War may indeed last forever, but they continue fighting anyway because there is nothing else for them to do. They have committed themselves so thoroughly to this path that retreat or surrender are impossible even if they wanted such things. Many Chaos Marines are sustained not by hope of ultimate victory, but by more immediate satisfactions. Each battle won, each enemy slain, each act of destruction brings its own reward. The approval of their patron gods, the respect of their peers, the thrill of combat, the pleasure of revenge. These are the things that give meaning to their existence on a day-to-day basis. The ultimate fate of the Long War matters less than the moment-to-moment reality of waging it. The relationship between Chaos Marines and the other forces of chaos is complex. They often fight alongside demon hosts, serving as the anchors that allow these entities to manifest in real space. They command cultist armies, mortal humans who worship chaos and serve as cannon fodder, or perform tasks beneath the Marines' notice. They bargain with the Dark Mechanicum for weapons and equipment. They ally with chaos-aligned Xenos when it serves their purposes. These coalitions are always temporary and often fractious, held together by temporary shared interests, rather than any genuine loyalty or friendship. Can a Chaos Marine ever return to the Imperium? This question haunts many who fall to chaos, especially in the early stages of their corruption. The official answer from the Imperium is clear. There is no redemption for traitors, no forgiveness for those who turn to chaos. Any Space Marine who has served the Dark Gods, even briefly, is to be hunted down and destroyed without mercy. The Inquisition maintains that once corrupted, a Marine can never be trusted again, that the taint of chaos runs too deep to ever be fully cleansed. In practice, the possibility of redemption is virtually non-existent. The physical mutations alone would mark a Chaos Marine as corrupted in the eyes of the Imperium, making any attempt to return suicidal. The psychological changes make it unlikely that a fallen Marine would even want to return. By the time they are visibly marked by chaos, their entire worldview has typically been reshaped. And perhaps most importantly, the Chaos Gods do not easily release those who have served them. They have invested power in these Marines, bound them with gifts and mutations, and they are not inclined to let such investments simply walk away. There are rare accounts in the lore of individuals who have turned from chaos back toward loyalty, but these are exceptional cases rather than any kind of established possibility. Most Chaos Marines are locked into their path irrevocably, bound by choices they made long ago, transformed physically and psychologically beyond any point of return. They will fight the long war until they die in battle, degenerate into chaos spawn, or achieve ascension to demon princehood. There are no retirement plans for traitors to the Imperium, no peaceful endings to the story of those who serve chaos. The modern era, following the creation of the Great Rift, has seen increased Chaos Marine activity throughout the galaxy. The massive warp rift that now splits Imperial space in half has made warp travel easier for Chaos forces while making it more dangerous for Imperial ships. Demon worlds have appeared in real space, and Chaos Marines can now strike at targets that were previously too distant from the Eye of Terror to be viable objectives. The Long War has entered a new phase, one where the forces of chaos have more freedom of movement and more opportunities for devastating strikes than they have enjoyed in millennia. Conclusion. The terrible truth. To become a Chaos Space Marine is to undergo one of the most complete transformations possible in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. It is not simply a change of allegiance or a decision to serve new masters. It is a fundamental reshaping of body, mind, and soul that leaves almost nothing of the original person intact. The process strips away the conditioning, the beliefs, the very identity that defined the Marine as a loyal servant of the Emperor, and replaces it with something entirely new, something that exists in service to forces that humans were never meant to comprehend. The tragedy of the Chaos Space Marine is that many of them began with noble intentions. They were created to be heroes, defenders of humanity against the darkness. They underwent brutal training and transformation to become living weapons in service of the Imperium. And then, through a combination of circumstance, manipulation, and their own flaws, they fell into damnation. Some fell because they were betrayed by those they trusted. Others fell because they saw truths they were not meant to see. Still others fell because they were tempted by promises of power or corrupted by exposure to forces beyond their ability to resist. The horror is not just in what they become, but in how thoroughly they are changed. A Chaos Marine is not a loyal Space Marine who happens to serve different masters. They are something fundamentally different, reshaped by decades or centuries or millennia of exposure to chaos. They think differently, feel differently, perceive reality differently. The values they once held sacred have been inverted. The brothers they once would have died for are now enemies to be destroyed. The emperor they once worshipped is now the object of their hatred. Everything that made them who they were has been corrupted and twisted into its opposite. And yet, despite all this transformation, many Chaos Marines retain some awareness of what they have lost. In moments of clarity, they might remember what it felt like to be pure, to serve a cause they believed in without reservation, to be part of a brotherhood built on genuine loyalty rather than fear and self-interest. These memories are often the most painful aspect of their existence, reminders of a life they can never return to, an innocence that has been permanently destroyed. The existence of Chaos Space Marines serves as a grim reminder of the fundamental darkness at the heart of the Warhammer 40,000 setting. Even the mightiest defenders can fall. Even the most carefully constructed warriors, enhanced and conditioned to resist corruption, can be brought low. The forces of chaos are patient and cunning, and they have 10,000 years of experience in turning the Emperor's servants against him. No one is truly safe. No one is beyond corruption, and the war between order and chaos can never truly be won, only endured. For those who have fallen, there is no happy ending waiting. They will fight the long war until they die, transform into mindless spawn, or achieve ascension to demon princehood. They will raid imperial worlds, slaughter civilians, spread corruption, and serve masters whose very nature is antithetical to human flourishing. They will accumulate mutations that make them less and less human with each passing year. They will watch their brothers fall or turn on each other in the endless competitions for power that define chaos. Warband politics. They will experience emotions and sensations that would shatter normal human minds. And through it all, they will know that they have become exactly what they once swore to destroy. This is what it means to become a Chaos Space Marine. It is a transformation without redemption, a journey into darkness from which there is no return, a fate worse than death, because consciousness and memory persist even as everything else is stripped away and corrupted. It is the ultimate cautionary tale in a universe that has no shortage of such tales. A demonstration that no matter how strong you are, no matter how pure your intentions, no matter how many safeguards are in place, the darkness can still claim you if you are not eternally vigilant. If you found this deep dive into the corruption and transformation of Chaos Space Marines fascinating, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. There are countless other dark corners of the Warhammer 40,000 universe to explore, from the alien civilizations that threaten humanity to the heroes who stand against the darkness, despite impossible odds. Each topic reveals new layers of this incredibly deep and detailed setting, showing us not just what war in the far future looks like, but what it costs those who fight it, whether they serve the Emperor or the Dark Gods themselves. The lore of Chaos Space Marines continues to evolve and expand, with new stories revealing different aspects of their existence and new characters demonstrating the many forms that service to chaos can take. From the mindless fury of the Hornate Berserkers to the Byzantine schemes of the Thousand Suns sorcerers, from the plague-ridden endurance of the Death Guard to the depraved excess of the Emperor's children, each Chaos faction offers a unique perspective on what it means to fall to darkness. And each fallen warrior has their own story, their own reasons for betrayal, their own path through the corruption that ultimately claims them all. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of one of the Warhammer 40,000 universe's darkest subjects. Until next time, remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, and not all who fight in that war serve the side they started on. The difference between hero and traitor, between savior and destroyer, can be smaller than anyone wants to admit. And that, perhaps, is the most frightening truth of all.